move that rig, let us in, and maybe this doesn't end with you in handcuffs on the evening news.
Well, you don't get it, do you? This is the path I'm on. It starts at birth and it ends here. This isn't a trip to Starbucks on the way to the office. This isn't an idea. God cuts our names into bone. And that's who we become. He blows his holy trumpet and the walls fall down. You all came here to find Lot's wife. She's already a pillar of salt and she ain't turning back. So, go and live. Or stay and die. It's up to you.
Welcome back, everybody, to Greenlight Cinema. It's your host here, Brandon Pacheco. Today we're doing 2 reviews in one, talking about we're just going ahead and wrapping it up. Fargo Season 5, Episodes 9 and 10, guys. That's right, I'm doing a full summary. I'm talking about both of these episodes. This, I guess, is going to feel probably extremely long. Maybe I may have to break it up. I'm not sure yet. I'll know in post. So I guess this is going to be like the Snyder Cut of reviews.
Sorry, guys. I didn't bring a sword.
That being, if you don't know that reference, it's going to possibly be like the Titanic. Geez, that's even older. This is going to be kind of a long review, but maybe not that long because I'm going to edit the crap out of it. So let's get started here and talk about Fargo Season 5, Episodes 9 and 10. Got my Beeb some Butthead Valentine's Day mug from my babe. Come to me, Butthead. I like that. Okay, guys, we're talking about Fargo today. So we start out opening scene. We see actually Gator and Old Munch. Last time we seen these two, Gator was actually driving around in his car after he told Dad off. He's in his squad car, fucking bitch. But Old Munch grabs him up, and now he's got him tied up in a shed. And he's kind of going on about the sins of man, and how Old Munch does these big speeches now. And so Gator's trying to bargain with him, giving him bargaining chips. You want drugs? I have a whole evidence locker full of drugs. Or you want girls? And just going on and on. But he's attacking Old Munch. He's there to pay a debt, and that debt's about the old lady. And I like what he says. He's like, that old lady, she drinks. That's it. She don't do nothing to nobody. And then and he's like, and then us two, just playing a game. Us 2 kids. He calls himself a kid. I love that part. She gets caught in the crossfire of our game. And he don't like that. So there is a debt that must be paid. There's always a debt that must be paid with this character. Don't forget about that. So he's saying he's got to pay a debt with Gator. So we see Old Munch fooling around with some fire and a hot poker, and he grabs a hot poker and starts going towards Gator. Gator's bargaining is no help. It don't help him at all. Old Munch grabs the hot poker and just jabs his eyes out. And we don't actually see it though. You should have seen my wife's reaction though. It's like she's like, ah, like as Joe Carey's screaming out. I'm like, they're not gonna show. It's not HBO. Anyway. Next we see Dot, and she's still trying to escape her unfortunate situation. And we see she's like got like some keys. She's got some type of like lock or pieces from a bed the bed that she was on, and she like broke it down, broke a board, and then got underneath the building like she's hiding. And we see Roy show up with his one of his men. And Roy says, the most I ever felt was for that woman, so she's got to be killed. So he gives the orders to go ahead and, get Dot killed. Now, don't forget, he's already killed Dave Foley from the last episode we seen. So Roy's man's going in there to take care of the business, I guess, for Roy. And he notices Dot's escaped. Dot's gone. So he goes running to Roy, and the scene cuts to another scene, so we don't really see what Roy's reaction is yet. So this episode's a little fast-paced in some places, but then it gets real slowed down. Indira calls Witten to let him know that Lorraine's caught the FBI, and they're headed over to Roy's ranch to go raid it. Indira tells Witten she's on another side now. this is saying that this is really the only way she can help with finding out this information about the FBI coming to raid Roy's ranch. Quickly hops in his prowler and goes down the road. Next we see Roy doing a live stream. Roy knows somehow he's about to be ambushed. I'm not really sure. They don't go in and explain this. That was a little weird. Roy tells, he's like, any local patriots close by, bring your beans and your bullets. We're gonna go. He's like, we're gonna go boss to the wall down here. It's like gonna be a full-out war. It looks like started. We see the cavalry show up just as he's requested. It's like crazy, right on demand. So we do have this little quick scene though, thank God, where it's like the children, where Roy and Karen's daughters like get safely tucked away and drive off somewhere, so the kids don't get hurt, right? We hope. But we see Dot, and she's running around Roy's ranch. She sneaks her way inside the house. She's trying to find a phone to call out on. Dot sneaks into Roy's old room and finds the landline. And now remember, she did used to live in this house. So I guess she knows, where all the phones and everything would be. Dad gets to call Wayne and Scotty just for a little brief second. And in that same moment, see in the corner of the doorway, Karen, Roy's other wife, has got her gun drawn on Dad. So Dad gets a 5-second conversation with Wayne and Scotty, and she's got to go because Karen's got a gun drawn on her. But that's pretty clever, as we know. She talks to Karen. She's like, when he give you that? Let me guess, you said something a little bitchy. And she's, just trying to kind of talk to her. But Karen's like, oh, shut up. I'm sick and tired of you. But at that same moment, she's real clever. And Karen wants to shoot Dot, but Dot's crafty. And she takes the gun away from Karen, knocks her out with it. What I like about the next part is it's real interesting how well she still knows Roy's house, or I guess how much he doesn't change up his place. She finds this little cross space, kind of like what we saw earlier in this season when Gator was trying to break inside hers and Wayne's house and Scotty's. She had like this little, this ladder going down, and it would like go up and down the part of the house through like a closet down to the basement to the downstairs. And so Roy's got the same setup. So that does the same thing and kind of escapes out through that way. Kind of leads her way outside the house. But before she does it, she like cuts on out of the ovens. It's almost exactly beat for beat. It's like a duplicate of what we've already seen in this season. Only this was, done to hers and Wayne and Scotty's house. And now she's trying to get back at her attacker's house, Roy and Gator's. That cleverly cuts on the oven though. Walks out completely undetected, and in the same scene and same time, it's like she sneaks out in such a way and Royce rolls up in such a way that their paths cross, but they don't even see each other. So like Roy walks in, and as soon as he walks in, he's like, whoa, does anyone smell that? Don't even light a cigarette. Roy tells the men, stop what you're doing, search the house, you've been played, she's been in here. Roy runs up the stairs with his gun drawn, looking around, and he sees Karen there laying, and that's his wife. He doesn't even stop or do anything. Or I'm like, I was a little blown away. I was like, okay, we really know this character. He's pretty sorry character. He don't even go check on her, and she's on his side. So he goes in Gator's room, and I think it was where the little closet way is, the little escape room down to the downstairs. And he goes in there and he sees where she has escaped, but he also sees that bag, but he also sees the bag of money he gave to Munch to go get Dot. Only now it's in Gator's room, so he knows instantly that Gator's screwed up. He's like, oh son, what did you do? So next we have kind of a hard scene to look at and imagine if you think about it. We have Gator blindfolded, like walking around in the snow being guided by old Munch. And poor kid, he's just crying. What else can he do? And we see him just guiding him in the snowy fog. Next we see back at the ranch, Dot calls Indira. She gets to talk to her for a little bit, but then she gets cut off by Lorraine. She gets on the phone and asks about Danish, and Dot gives her the news that Roy has killed Danish. We have a real sweet scene here with Dot and Lorraine. Lorraine kind of gives her a little build-up speech for confidence. She tells her, no daughter of mine's going down without a fight. But Indira cuts her off and is like, actually, stay out of the fight if you can, Dot, because the Army and FBI are on the way. Dot tells them to hurry. There's an army there for her. Indira wants Dot safe because after Dot gets off the phone with Indira and Lorraine, we see the FBI and the Army roll up. And we see Trooper Whitfire also there. But Whit's mission here is real sweet. He feels like he's got to pay a debt back, Dot saved his life, and he wants to try and save hers. So we see that Whit and the FBI are there, and the Army. And Whit gets a call from Indira. Indira's like, we know Dot's location kind of so far. Here's the phone number she's called from. Be very careful, get our girl out of there. We have a very fast-paced scene kind of going on here.
Well, hello everyone, it's me, Mr. P, and I'm here to point out a little minor flaw. Your eyes might cut it, but your brain couldn't. See, there's a scene where Dad gets the gun from Karen, and then like a few minutes later, she gets another gun from old Munch, and I picked my brain apart trying to figure out, why does Dad need two guns? So she has a gun from Karen. Where does that gun go? And then old Munch gave her a gun. See how this starts to feel like lazy writing on Noah Hawley's part? Maybe it's just me, and it probably is, but it feels like Noah Hawley's just trying to hurry up and get this shit over with. Like he don't care. Like he has other better shit to do. Finish my Fargo season properly. I'm an elderly man and I don't give a shit. Anyway, what was I saying about a minor nitpick?
Such a great, exciting scene, though. We have the FBI, their guns loading. The whole episode, the whole season looks good. The color palette, everything. The FBI, they finally reached Roy's front gates, and they're trying to come up with some type of strategy. I wrote down something, though. I like what the FBI, they tell the Army guy that's in charge it's about ready to, talk to Roy. The FBI gal, she's like, Roy's men, they talk about 1776 like it's a trip to Six Flags. I love that part. I thought that was great. I was like, yeah, they kind of do, don't they? And also, Whit speaks up in the scene and is like, also be careful about our victim, Dot. She's still on the ranch. Next, we have the snowy, foggy scene, and we see Roy coming out from the dugout, and he sees two people approaching, and it's old Munch and Gator. Old Munch is giving out a speech. Gator's crying out to his dad, and it's a real sad scene. Old Munch refers to Gator as a hand without function. When Roy gets Gator back, he tells Gator if there was ever a point to him, it's gone now. And Roy leaves Gator out in the snow. So next we see Odin, Roy's father-in-law, talking to Roy. He asked him, are they in where are they at Hitler's glory or Hitler's last days? And Roy just replies back, we got sandwiches and coffee for the men. Odin pretty much tells Roy that all this right here just started just because he couldn't tame a piece of ass, more or less. Kind of saying, if you just couldn't let things go with this, Dot character, we wouldn't even be in this mess right now. But he had to go back and mess with Dot. So next we have Roy comes out, talks to the FBI. The FBI, they basically know they're dealing with a crazy leader with no plan. Roy meets with the FBI and we get this great, interesting speech from Roy. It really just gives us a true idea where his mindset's at. The FBI asks for two names, Danish Graves and Dorothy Lyon. Roy says he don't acknowledge either of them. The FBI, he gives Roy, he says, maybe if you work with us, this don't have to end up with you on the evening news. And Roy gives him this great speech saying, well, you don't get it, do you? Where the path I'm on starts at birth and it ends here. Our name's cut into bone. He said you came here looking for Lot's wife, but she's already turned to a pillar of salt. This really shuts the FBI up, kind of in a way. They're like, whoa. And Roy and his men, they shut the gates. The FBI knows that this is going to be quite a battle with Roy. Roy gives the FBI the option to go and live or stay and die. He's pretty confident that he's going to win this. After Roy closes the gates, we see Roy talking to one of his men saying, he's like, hey, the FBI, they got here a little quick. So he thinks Dad's grabbed the phone and like caught in the FBI. And also, Roy thinks that Dad's kind of hiding out on his land until everything cools off, and then she's going to like find her way back to Minnesota. And his guy is like, nah, boss, probably not. She's probably, left this ranch by now. Roy doesn't take that. So we have Roy and his men going to search for Dot. Next we see Dot going to the exact same place. She finds that place where they where they threw Danish's body in. And this scene right here is so atmospheric. You can just smell it almost, because it's like, that's where they put Danish. And she even does like, like it smells. And not only that too, we got this cold, snowy fog going on, and so in the distance we see Roy's men. So we see Roy's men looking for, we can hear them. We see them on an ATV driving around, and so we know they're coming. Dot's looking out this hole, seeing them, and then all of a sudden we hear guns firing off and people getting shot and killed and mayhem, and all of a sudden we hear the tiger can come out now, and it's old Munch. Yeah, he comes in and saves Dot's ass at the last moment, and we get this cool little scene where he's like, the tiger's free, but don't get too used to this. Shots in this scene are incredible because it's like almost monochromatic, like a flat angle. I mean, it's like icing on the cake with this beautiful, with these beautifully done scenes. Going back to old Munch and Dot. Old Munch has just saved Dot's life. Dot was just inches away from getting shot and killed by Roy's men, but she's saved in an instant, out of nowhere, by old Munch. And it's so cool. He hands her a gun, and he goes his way and she goes hers, and that's the end of this episode. So it's like, oh, we're getting set up for some good stuff about to happen. Alright, here we are at Fargo Season 5, Episode 10. But before we get into that, I kind of want to say something and reflect on how I'm feeling this is my thoughts towards this show, towards Season 5. Just my little point here. I'm not going to tell you this show gets better as you sit on it, or the first time you happen to watch it. If it holds your attention, it holds your interest, that's great. The truth is, it holds value to you and us, the audience. My point is here, I guess every Fargo season is for everybody, or is not for everybody. This one I liked, but I started to lose interest by episodes 7 and 8. And the reason why I say that is I feel like a pretty good, a little comparison right here. I feel like by this point in season 2, I don't mean to always go back to that season, but it's such a great season. So, Ed and Peggy, they're fugitives, right? So even if they do get saved, that was the thing about that season. I'm just going back. We're on episodes 9 and 10 of Fargo Season 2 right now, I'm talking about. We don't know if Ed and Peggy, if they're going to get saved. If they get saved, they're going to prison or they're going to jail, right? Maybe. Point of it is we have no idea Ed or Peggy's fate or future. So, you kept wanting to watch to see what was going to happen. The thing about it is with Roy here, he's such a bad character that we either know that he's going to get shot and killed, which Dad don't feel like it's too deserving of his character. Like, we want him to, pay for what he's done. So we kind of know, for me anyway, I seen this coming a mile away that he was going to go to prison. All right, now, with all that out, all the spoilers out, here's my thoughts on Fargo Season 5, Episode 10. Here we go. So we open up this scene with Gator. We see Gator about where Roy leaves him at. He's making his way, kind of thumbling his way around the dugout. Gator's making his way, tunneling his way through, in and out of the dugout, trying to find some help or something. Since Roy's left him out there blind in the snow, Next we see the army, they're getting their guns drawn and ready to get Roy, but more importantly, there to rescue Dot. So Gator, he comes out of that hole there, and the FBI, they find him and rescue him for now. So next we have this intense scene. We have Odin, Roy's father-in-law, and Odin, he's had it. I guess Odin's had it up to here by now. Odin gives Roy a piece of his mind, saying he's seen what he did to Karen, leaving her a black eye. So Odin's like, I had to teach you a lesson. And Roy's like, oh, come on, Professor, let's see what you got, more or less. While Odin's rolling up his sleeves, Roy pulls out a knife and slices his throat right, and like during the same, it's like all in one long shot. This is all like one long take, which was pretty impressive, I think. Karen, in the same scene, sees this and was like, oh my gosh, Dad. And he's like, don't make me come get you, woman. So already now Karen's switched sides. So Karen's like, I'm done. I'm gonna switch sides. She starts running. And in the same scene, we see Dot with the gun old Munch gave her, and she shoots Roy in the stomach. It's a satisfying scene, trust me. But then we get this, a cliche line from Roy saying, give us a kiss. It was like, oh my gosh, he said the most typical bad guy line. He says the most typical bad guy cliche, you got me line. But the scene where Roy stabs Odin, it's like Karen pops out so quickly that it felt like it was timed in a way. Like, I wonder if Karen didn't just come to and was like, runs into Dot and we're going to come up with a plan, we're going to get him, But I don't think that happened like that. But right as Dot shot him, the FBI pull out from the woods, and it's like a great little homage scene from season 4. It's like a fade, cut to fade look with the gun shooting, because it's a real fast paced scene, but it's like, it starts doing that cut fade look with the gun shooting, like it identical to season 4 with the with the wood shootout there. It's comical though, because Dot's like, I'm the hostage, I'm the victim, wait guys. She doesn't get shot, thank God. Wood hops on top of her, blocks her from getting shot, and Roy escapes during all the gunfire and bullets flying everywhere like a coward. Dot's like, don't let him get away, don't let Roy get away. In this slow, suspenseful scene we got Roy taken off, and Whit goes after him. Roy goes to the dugout, exactly the place where he keep going back and forth to. Whit finds him in the dugout, but Whit's not fast enough, and Whit calls for backup, but right as he calls for backup, he gets stabbed by Roy. Next we see Dot getting rescued by the FBI, finally, I guess about to go home, and Karen's getting hauled off in the handcuffs, Roy's other wife. Next we see Roy still in the dugout after he's killed Whit, and he's trying to tunnel his way around the FBI, like they don't know like all the little ins and outs of his little ranch. So Roy comes out exactly where Gator did, and it's a great scene because as soon as Roy climbs out of the hole, he gets caught right by the FBI. And the best part is the FBI tell Roy that Gator gave him away. So we see Roy get captured by the FBI, and we see this sweet little scene with Dot and Gator. She sees him, he's blindfolded still, of course. And he asks her, did you actually see my mom, Linda? And she's like, no, but I thought I did. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Gator at this point, but she tells him that she's going to make him some oatmeal raisin cookies. There's, I guess, a lot that could happen, because he's, a witness to all his dad's crimes. In the same scene, we see Dot talking to the FBI, and she asks about Whit, and they tell Dot that Whit doesn't make it. It's such a sad ending, like all the good guys get to return home except Whit. Next, we see Dot getting into a prowler, getting to go back home, and she's so tired as she's going back to Minnesota. But she gets to reunite with her family. We get that scene, and right here it feels like it should just cut off, but she gets to, see Scotty and Wayne like we all wanted to, like we all want to. We get that happy ending, and even Lorraine hugs her. That's the great part, It's such a little heartwarming scene, you know, because we're like, are we ever gonna get to this point? And we finally have. Lorraine even gives that's my gal, you know. It's such a great scene. So then it cuts off and we have a bit of a time jump a year later. So it's a year later, and we see Dot and Scotty paying their respects with Indira at Whit's gravesite. We find out that he does. It's kind of sad, but Indira's got his cat, which I have a little thing. It would have been a neat little Easter egg if the cat's name would have been Ray. She would have been like, yeah, I got to keep his cat. His cat's name's Ray. What? Why is that significant, Brand? Because there's a cat named Ray in season 3, and it could have been Ray Stussy, and the soul inside a cat. What? This season 5. And season 3 are only 2 years apart. How do I know this? Because I remember season 3 ends with Emmett Stussy getting his brains blown out by Mr. Numbers. Mr. Wrench, I'm sorry. And Mr. Wrench still theoretically could be alive in the Fargo anthology, but they didn't bother to show him. They didn't bother to show Varga. I have so many gripes about this season, but it was good. My point is, and this is the last I'll say about it, Fargo season 5 takes place in 2019. Fargo season 3 takes place in 2010 to 2011, and a time jump in 2017. That's all I'm saying. I digress. There was no Varga. I mean, theoretically, he could have just popped in there. We had an open ending with him in season 3.
The grouse can be doctored. One's eyes can be deceived. We see what we believe, not the other way around.
Okay, back to my review. Next, we have a little visit with Lorraine and Indira at a men's prison. Lorraine's came to talk to Roy. So Lorraine, in the beginning of the season, she wanted to have a bank. And instead of being the debt collector, she'd be the lender. So she tells Roy she started a foundation, helping out the other prisoners with small cash, and so they won't lose their families or lose their houses while they're in there, and kind of help them out through their commissary. Basically, Lorraine has set up some type of foundation with the prisoners to make Roy's life a living hell while he's there. Lorraine doesn't want Roy dead. She wants him to suffer for all the pain he put his wives through, which is pretty hardcore. She makes Indira leave to tell Roy this. One thing you can say about this season is Noah Hawley did not leave any stones unturned. It's pretty much all the doors are shut to these characters. It's pretty much an open and closed season. No open endings, no stones unturned. So here we are at our final scene. After Dot and Scotty have paid their respects at Whit's grave, they come home to find old Munch sitting on their couch hanging out with Wayne. And Wayne's just being, normal. He's just being Wayne. Wayne's just being Wayne, like, hey, like, let's talk about anything. Let me be the most gracious guest I can be. And Dot's like, oh, what the heck's this guy doing here, I'm not going to get into this whole scene. It's a fantastic scene. Old Munch, his name is Ulamuk. A lot of history about Old Munch. A lot of background, a lot of history about Old Munch. His name is... Get into this whole scene. It's a fantastic scene. We get a lot of background, a lot of history about Old Munch. His name is Ulamuk, which is a really neat name. He gives us that. And also, this scene's about 15 or 20 minutes long of him just talking about his history and how a debt needs to be paid. That's why he's there, by the way. That's like, what if you don't have money to pay it? You lose your job, or, she's like, how am I supposed to pay this debt? The debt he's talking about, by the way, is he's going all the way back to the first episode. He's like, you killed my friend. I let you go for a year, but now I need something in return. I need a life for a life, a debt for a debt. And it's like, oh my gosh. It's like this stuff again. Jeez. So we have a 15 or 20 minute scene with characters sitting in a room and shot reverse shot, and it couldn't be a little more boring. Whew. I just think maybe Noah Hawley has a hard time wrapping up his final episodes in these newest seasons, because season 4 was like, oh my gosh, just end already. Anyway, it was still a great season though. So Ula Monk, he's there for that debt, and Dad knows he's not coming down off that debt. So she's like trying to convince him and talk to him. And she's like, biscuits, or I guess we got cooking we got to do. So why don't you stay for dinner? And we see Ula Monk actually in their kitchen helping. And he's still talking about his debt, but they're like interrupting him and shit. And like he's making biscuits. And Dad's like, you see, really all you need is to, pay back things with food, good food, and love. That tells him simply eat something with love and be forgiven. I like that. I think that's that should be like on a shirt. I would wear it. I like though about the Bisquick. The Bisquick felt like another season 2 thing. Like every time I see Bisquick, I think of Fargo season 5 now. Just like every time I see a box of hamburger helper, I can't help but think about Ed and Peggy from season 2. The Lion family sits down with Monk and they all are eating and talking. Before they eat, they say a little prayer. I love that. There's always that little bit of God in Fargo, and I enjoyed that. I think the Lion family has an impact on old Munch, because when he bites in that biscuit, that scene is like the greatest. It's like it takes so long for him to bite into it. When he bites into it, so satisfying to not only him, but just the audience. We're like, oh, I want a biscuit, and man, this is good shit. But, we don't know if he doesn't do anything to them or not. I'd like to think he didn't. But it ends with him biting into a biscuit and, them sitting around the table. It's a very interesting ending to such a complex season of a show. That's my review for all of Fargo season 5 episodes 9 and 10. I hope you guys enjoyed my review. Gosh, this has been exciting, going back and doing Fargo reviews. I can't wait till they put out the newest season, whenever that's going to be, because you know what's going to happen. So what's Greenlight Cinema going to do in the meantime? I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to work on more reviews. We're going to look at The Succession, and we're going to be doing some new shows, Rick and Morty. Guys, I've recently started watching South Park, so I cannot wait to tell you guys what I've been thinking about that show. All right, guys, please like this episode and subscribe to this channel if you hadn't already. And guys, give me feedback, comments, tell me what we're doing next. I'm so excited to hear from everybody. I've enjoyed doing this season so much, guys. Thank you so much for watching my Fargo reviews and for being such a great audience. All right, guys, Brando out. Bye.
Was there